Sabah al-Khair from Cairo, Egypt. Well, kind of, but we'll explain. In our last video, we just got home from our winter excursions in Canada, but in reality, this is a little out of order.
I know this is not the typical format for our vlogs, but unfortunately, we had an incident. Our hard drive crashed with our Egypt footage, along with Brazil, Greece, and Spain. And the worst part is, it happened a single day before we were about to get a new hard drive and properly back up our footage. But I swear we have learned our lesson. The good thing is,
we were able to salvage enough footage for this video since, for reasons we'll explain later, a lot of it was taken on our phone.
Our travel day to Egypt started off in Spain, and after spending the night in a hotel which looked like a children's daycare, we got to the...
It really did.
It did, and we have some footage, right?
I don't know.
We got to the airport at around 7 a.m. The requirements to get to Egypt were many of the same that we've seen before, such as a health declaration, a temperature check, but the big one is you either had to have a negative PCR test within 72 hours of the departure, or you had to show proof that you were fully vaccinated. But the difference is, unlike any other country that we've been to before, is that they required a QR code for your vaccination.
Which, if you've seen the US cards that are issued by the CDC, there's no QR code and there's no universal application for the whole United States to use to get a QR code. So we kind of had to think on our feet.
Which, fortunately for us, we actually were vaccinated in Times Square, New York City. Can't imagine a cooler place, but New York does have a QR code that you can get. We just hadn't needed it, so we didn't get it up to that point. So while Alicia was scurrying to figure that out, I went to go see how much a rapid PCR test was in case we couldn't get the QR code. It was ridiculous. I think it was like $100 or more per test.
Luckily, I was able to input our information pretty easily and get a QR code and get through check-in and fly to our next destination.
Which was Greece. And we had an 8-hour layover in which we saw the Acropolis, had dinner with a view of the Acropolis, and then we got back to the airport to check into our flight to Egypt.
Which is where we started to run into a couple more issues.
Okay, this is the line just to get into the waiting area for our gate. They're checking everyone's COVID or PCR tests. Or checking everyone's vaccine or PCR test.
Your vaccine, please? Yes, and a hard copy. Hope they accept this. I hope.
Turns out our QR code doesn't have all of the necessary information. It needed to have the name of our vaccine, the date of the vaccine, our name, and our birth dates to match all of our identification and everything. Ours just had our name and our birth dates and that we were vaccinated, but it didn't have the full information or dosage.
I'll try and look for more information too. So
Try to get anything better than that.
okay.
Thank you so much. You forgot?
Cannot forget.
I was in a bit of a panic to try and get everything we needed before we took off since I wouldn't have internet in the air. And I gathered all of the documentation I possibly could that we were fully vaccinated, including the YouTube video that we took of us getting vaccinated. I downloaded that, I took screenshots of that. I also had confirmation of our vaccine appointments and emails, and I had everything I possibly could to prove that we were fully vaccinated.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Cairo.
When we landed in Egypt, it was very, very late. It was 1 a.m. And sometimes arriving that late works to your benefit because the people working are tired, just like you would expect. So when we got there, we ended up in this long line, which was the queue to show all of your documentation and your QR code. It was the moment of truth, and to say we were nervous is a big understatement. And we waited, and we got up there.
Okay, we just made it through the COVID section. I just had to show our vaccine cards, put QR code, and then he just asked if we had an Egyptian phone number or a friend or something. So lucky that we were staying with friends here. We are now in Egypt and Africa.
Getting our visas, going through immigration and customs was very different for us in Egypt than any other country, and it needs some background before we move forward with what actually happened.
Back when we were booking all of our travels for the end of the year, I decided to post on Instagram a short clip of where we were planning on heading, including Egypt. And a friend from college, Holly, decided to reach out and say that she actually had some really close friends that lived in Egypt that she'd be more than willing to get us in touch with, and hopefully we could stay with them. That contact turned out to be Hazem and Margaret, two of the sweetest people in the world who decided to take us in and let us stay with them for the entire duration of our time in Egypt, even though they had never met us before and never even talked to us on the phone. And that included picking us up at the airport at 2 o'clock in the morning.
It was so generous and kind of them.
Absolutely.
After having our documentation verified, Hazem had a contact, Sam, and he met us right after that. He showed us right where to get our visas, how much we needed for our visas, which was kind of tricky because the visa line was just like a survival of the fittest. Once we had our visas, Sam just said hold tight, and he left with our passports, our visas, and he went into this room and came back with our passport stamped. I didn't even know that was an option anywhere in the world.
Neither did I.
But then after that, huge queue of people going through immigration. We just went right to the left, straight through.
It was called like the Diamond Lane or something like that.
Yeah, it was like super VIP, and we are not in any way VIP.
No. We look so ridiculous.
I don't know, I think we look good.
I think we look ridiculous.
So this was a total surprise to us, but it made the process so easy, especially considering the fact that it was like 2 in the morning at this point, and we were very foggy from a long travel day.
We spent the majority of our time in Giza hanging out at their home and getting to know the family and eating a ton of delicious food. Honestly, we've fallen in love with the Egyptian cuisine because of the incredible food we had while at Hazem's. Over the weekend, we got to go with Margaret to a couple of her polo games, which was so cool because I have never seen polo in person, and they are all so good. And it's so fast. And I even took pictures for him. And Nate even got to get up on a horse and try out polo for himself.
And we went on a very, very beautiful sunset horseback ride. And I even learned a new party trick for the next time we are celebrating and have some champagne.
Yeah, you gotta like get more runway.
Yeah.
More runway.
Yeah, go. Go back. Harder.
Oh, it didn't break!
Holy cow. It didn't fly.
I was looking for it.
So you're actually supposed to come.
Now, we couldn't go to Egypt without visiting the famous Pyramids of Giza, or the 8th wonder of the world.
Well, we typically don't hire guides for excursions when we're traveling. We did in Egypt and for the pyramids for a couple of reasons. The first of which is that we were traveling extremely fast at the time, and we didn't have the amount of time we would have liked to get the proper research done. Number 2, as it turns out, Egypt's not so keen on cameras. In fact, we mailed our drone from Spain to Italy, which is a future destination for us. And before we left the airport in Greece to go to Egypt, we packed all of our cameras away so as not to draw any attention when we got to Egypt. By having a local guide us at the pyramids, we knew we'd have a better idea of what cameras we could actually bring with us and when and where we could use them, which is not many places, to be honest, and we used our GoPro and our phone to film most of this vlog. And it was mostly phone because it seems to be the only camera that they don't care that much about. And it's also our worst audio that we have. So sorry about that.
Yeah. When doing our research for heading to Egypt, we were watching some Kara and Nate videos, obviously huge YouTubers in the travel industry. And while they were at the pyramids, they highly recommended their guide Mostafa, so we reached out to him to see if he was available, and he was.
The experience of the pyramids starts before you even get there. We were driving on the highway and Alicia and I are just chattering back and forth in the back when Mostafa asked if we've ever seen the pyramids before, ever been to Egypt, and we said no, we learned about it growing up, but that's about it. He said basically in the kindest way possible, you might just want to look out there. And we did, and like you can just see the pyramids like right there from the highway, clear as day. It didn't take long to get there. Once we did, we basically just get a huge panoramic view right away of the Great Pyramid of Giza. It was
massive. You can go inside the Great Pyramid of Giza as well as one of the other large pyramids. We decided to just go for the big one and go inside the largest pyramid in the world and climb inside of it. Most pyramid structures have the tomb area beneath the pyramid and the pyramid is just built up on top of it, but the Great Pyramid of Giza, the tomb is actually in the center of the pyramid. So you have to climb up a little ways onto the pyramid and then go inside. We are inside of the Great Pyramid of Giza, the largest pyramid in the world. We're inside it. It's like 4,500 years old. I'm kind of nervous, and we also can't stand walking up this tunnel.
oh my gosh, this is crazy. When you get to the top, some air conditioning to sit by for a minute. It's a nice way to wait in line.
We are inside the tomb right now. This is the tomb where the king was buried. His mother is in a separate room and there's 5 rooms above it to help relieve pressure so it doesn't collapse in here. He's in the museum now, so this is empty, thank goodness. And there used to be a ton of decorations. He was buried with like all of his treasure. It was awesome. We were inside the Great Pyramid of Giza. And we got to climb on the pyramids, which is no longer allowed except for to get inside the pyramid. After exploring the inside and the outside of the Great Pyramid, we got to drive to our next spot, which was a lifesaver because it is so hot in Egypt and his car was air conditioned and had cold water, so thanks Mostafa. We drove up to the panoramic viewpoint where everybody goes to get that iconic picture of you holding the pyramid, jumping next to the pyramids. It's a great spot to see a ton of the pyramids, which I didn't actually know there were more than 3.
I didn't either. But a hint at that is the next place that we went. The new best viewpoints inside the pyramid complex is a restaurant called 9 Pyramids Cafe. Typically speaking, you need reservations weeks and weeks ahead of time. But Mostafa, being a very well-versed guide that he is and knowing everybody in the complex, he was able to actually get us in to the restaurant, which I don't think it would be fair for us to say this without saying, don't expect this. Don't expect this, because it almost didn't work for us. So it's better just to make those reservations ahead of time.
And it is well worth it.
The restaurant itself is all outdoors, and in front of the seating area is just this big, basically deck where everybody goes out to take pictures and videos of the amazing view of all 9 pyramids. You have the 3 large pyramids and then 6 smaller pyramids. You can see all of them from right there, and that's why it is the very best view. Again, they only let you really use your phone, but that's cool. We got some great photos there. Mostafa also invited us to try some dishes from Egypt, and initially I thought we were getting like a dish, maybe 2, and before the end of it, I think we had like every Egyptian dish. The food's so good it doesn't matter, but I think we ended up having like 6 plates and 2 desserts, all of which was phenomenal.
It was so good. After stuffing ourselves completely full, we drove over to the famous Sphinx but in order to get to the Sphinx, we had to go through the Mummification Temple.
This is the Mummification Temple, and it was used only one time for about 70 days to mummify the king.
Interesting thing about the Sphinx is originally thought that because it was in front of the pyramid, it served as a protective force
Ooh, good word.
against the pyramid. But the king just liked the Sphinx. It was like a giant piece of art to him. So it's not meant to be protective.
The pyramids closed before sunset and reopened later in the night for a light show on the pyramids. We didn't end up going to that, but we did have an amazing day at the pyramids, and just want to thank Mostafa for being the ultimate guide and making it such a breeze. We didn't really have to worry about anything the whole time, even though there were a lot of restrictions and hoops that we had to jump through. Mostafa just took care of everything, and it was so easy. If you're interested in booking a tour at the pyramids or really anywhere else throughout Egypt, you can reach out to Mostafa. His information is just in the description below, and he'll be able to guide you himself or hook you up with someone else that is a trusted, reliable guide.
And we hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry it was not in our typical format, but thanks for bearing with it. If you did like this, hit the like button below. And if you want to stamp your passports with us again,
make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys in the next video. We do have a couple more Egypt videos coming up. Just as a side note, if you are interested in seeing where we are in real time, be sure to sign up for our weekly Travel Tip Tuesday newsletter, where we give updates on our real-time travels, as well as long-term travel tips that we've learned over our last 2 years of travel.
this is just such a massive shot of your butt. I'm pretty sure I've got you yawning in every cool place in the world so far.